everybody, and welcome to a new episode of CONECTOD en inglés. Hey, I want to start by saying hello to my co-host, Thomas. Hello, Thomas, how are you?
Hello to you, Guadalupe, Steve, and everybody there watching this.
So today, well, we have a very special guest today. First of all, he's a very multifaceted human being, if I can call him a human being, because he's actually from outer space. He's definitely amazing. He's very talented in so many different ways, you guys. He's a graphic artist. He's a tattoo artist, a cartomancer, and an animal lover and healer. So above all, I want to say that he is my friend, whom I love deeply. And today here I have the honor to interview from California, Steve Seven. So hello, Steve, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing amazing now. I'm so excited for this. I think it's been a long time coming to get something like this done with us on the same feed.
Yes. Steve, first of all, for the audience here, because we usually record in Spanish, but for the people to get to know you here, what can you tell them about yourself?
Let's see, how would I even start this? I definitely feel like a what we consider to be called a jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. Where I can't necessarily limit myself to one thing. I've always felt drawn to so many different things. And I think what's awesome about that is being drawn to so many things and kind of being able to pick and choose what I'm more drawn to kind of does lead you to your path of what is meant for you, I guess you could say.
This is why I said that you're multifaceted, because you have this flexibility in you that allows you to become whatever you want to become.
Exactly. I don't like to limit myself at all. And I know my ancestry deals a lot with Native Americans. It could even stem down to Mayan and Aztec as well.
Mayan and Aztec. That's wonderful.
Because I've always had this. If you look down into history, it's interesting because my last name is actually Spanish, from Spain, but I do have Native American ancestry as well. So again, if you deep dive into these rabbit holes and into these webs, there's a lot of history that connects those two together, And going into the ancestry, before there were borders, now it's the United States. It used to be Mexico. Before Mexico was Native America. So, there's so many connections there that I just can't deny. That again, you just feel it. You feel it. And that's something that we talk a lot about with in dealing with psychic and mediumship, where it's not like someone comes through and literally says, hey, you're this, you're this, you're this. It's a feeling, and you just feel it. It's so hard to describe. I love that you called me an alien from outer space, because that's another term I like to bring up. Is it's so hard to describe to somebody who's never actually experienced it. There's this literal connection you have with someone where you don't even have to say words. It's all feeling, and you guys are connecting on some certain level where you don't even have to talk, but you know what you're saying. And I know that's how psychic and mediumship works a lot, and I'm working towards that. I'm getting close, because I've had some instances where I'm drawing cards for people and I don't even have to pull the cards, and I'm like, I already know what to tell you. I already know what to tell you. And ironically, just to make it even more amazing, I'll pull the cards which I'm telling them the advice for.
That is so beautiful what you said, and it brings me to two things. The first one, that I believe that this kind of internal force, this natural thing, also has to do with what you do with animals. This connection is not only you don't only build this sort of connection with another human being. You can also build this connection with other sentient creatures, right? So how do you feel about that?
It's a little harder with human beings. Human beings can be a little more difficult. I like to bring up animals and children most of all, because I know a lot of people in first meeting me, they're like, you look a little rough on the edges. You look a little, you look a little scary. I get it a lot. I got it yesterday. I hung out with a friend that I haven't seen in years. And he's like, dude, this guy, he was describing me to two guys that I'd never met, right? And they're like, dude, he looks so scary, but he's the nicest guy ever. And I'm like, I still hear that. And it still kind of blows my mind, because I'm like, I think what happened was growing up in, I mean, especially certain societies, LA isn't necessarily the nicest place to be around. I mean, sometimes because of skin color or because of, certain teams you like to represent, there's a lot of gang stuff out here, and, they misrepresent it. So I think I had this tough exterior of, we call it mimicry, where, like, for instance, you could have a butterfly where the wings look like there's eyes on the back so that predators won't go to it. It's like, oh, there's a big thing in there, I'm not going to even try, right? But really, it's this pretty little butterfly with just this aesthetic on it. So the thing that I love to represent about children and animals is they see right through that. They're so innocent and pure. They see through the veil and they see your soul, and they don't judge. You know what I mean? I mean, some animals will, but I think they have this other sense where they just feel your intentions or your purity. And I ran a exotic shop for 4 years. I wanted to go to school to to work like at a zoo so that I could actually work with animals. And I was kind of turned off at the idea that I had to intern for like 4 years while I was doing all this. And I mean, the nearest zoo to me, it's a nice drive. We got traffic constantly. It didn't seem logical to me. I was going to be spending so much money just going there, and I could already do it myself. So I ran an exotic shop for 4 years instead of actually having to do the internship, which I got to work with exotic snakes, some of the biggest snakes that we had, even like anacondas or reticulated pythons. One of my favorites that I had a really close bond with was a carpet python, which they're from Australia. I also had the opportunity to work with a tiger that belonged to a rapper out here in LA. So that was a little bittersweet, to be honest, because I knew as a wild animal, it does not belong in captivity. But the other half of me was like, are you ever going to get this opportunity again? Right. So we kind of got a nice little bond going, and he was super sweet. And I'm actually very happy to say that once the tiger got confiscated from the rapper, he got sent to an animal sanctuary where he's protected. And
that's awesome.
He's huge and looks amazing now. And especially in a captivity sense, you can't necessarily release him back to the wild, because the wild is the wild.
Exactly. Because I believe that. Sorry?
No, was he an adult, or was he a young tiger?
When I was taking care of him, he was 7 months old, which interestingly enough, we'd still consider that very adolescent or young. And he was the size of a mastiff if you're looking at a dog. It was I don't even know how to explain the situation. It was mind-blowing. It was again, it was a once in a lifetime thing to build a bond with something like that, because he was a sweetheart. He was a total sweetheart, but you could feel the power behind him if he, I like to represent, like, and say with animals, like, people are like, oh, is he nice? Is he gonna bite? And I'm like, you never know. You never know. He could be having a bad day. Just like humans, we have good days and bad days. You have this up and down sense of emotions. Your emotions are roller coasters. Life is a roller coaster, right? It's not, I mean, it's constantly flowing, but it's never going to be the same. You're going to have the Two of Pentacles and dance through life. So I like to always tell people, like, especially handling snakes, is it going to bite? Is it going to bite? I like to be real and say, I don't know. It could. It could. Let's be real. It might. I'm not going to say no, and then a snake bites you and you're going to, you said it wasn't going to bite. You know what? I don't know. It's a soul too, and it can do what it wants. If it doesn't like you, it may bite you. I don't
Yeah,
know.
of course. And you
So
know
I
that.
like to be real with people, but at the same time, it's like you gotta intentions. If you're there for the right intentions, they're gonna know that, they're gonna feel that, and they're gonna respect you. It's all about respect as well.
I was
Have you
actually.
experienced a bite?
Only once, and it was my fault. Only once, and it was my fault.
I was actually thinking about what you said, intentions, while you were talking, and that brings me to the next level of understanding of who we are. Um, what is soul empowerment or spiritual empowerment, and what it has to do with intention, right, with perception, and what it brings to us as human beings, and how it allows us to connect to others. So what does this soul empowerment or spiritual empowerment mean to you, and what does it mean in your life, and what has it brought into your life?
That could be a tough question to me, because I know in my spiritual journey, I'm realizing that I have a huge heart. And if I focus too much on the bad things that are going on in the world, it's just going to drive me crazy. And I have to realize that I'm the creator of my world and my surroundings. So I have to start with that and focus on that. So I do like to, when some people say, well, I'm doing this because they want me to, or I'm doing this because, it'll benefit these people, benefit that, and it's like, well, what are you doing for yourself? There's a line between, I always say as well, there's a fine line between like a confidence and cockiness. And you have to find that line, because you're the only one that lives in your body every day, right? You have to make yourself happy, and you have to surround yourself with the people that are going to lift you up as opposed to bring you down.
And also
And so
humbleness, which is also something that animals and children teach us, because if you're not humble, then there is no way that you can progress in this life journey in which you are nurturing your soul, basically.
And being truly excited. And I mean, that's why it's funny. Some people, again, it's like, oh, you still watch cartoons, or you do this, or you do that. And it's like, yeah, I don't see any age limits on it. If it's fun and if it makes you happy, then do it, then do it. Like, there was a point in time where I was going to Disneyland pretty often, because I mean, the season pass was affordable at the time. And I made a lot of friends in doing that, because I've always kind of felt alone in my small circular journey that I was doing. I kind of always felt hermitish, or kind of felt like I was, not that I didn't belong, I've always been very different. And I started connecting with people that were more along the same lines, and I guess I was just a natural leader. I would always tell them, like, for instance, if I caught somebody making fun of somebody at Disneyland, I'd be like, dude, we're at Disneyland. We can do anything we want. Look at me. I'm, so many years old and I'm still wearing ears. Like, there's, leave your baggage at the door. This is where we come to be kids. And that's what a lot of people need, is that natural childlike excitement, because it really does make life exciting when you look at things through a child perspective of excitement.
It allows us to grow, to get in touch with our inner child, and to create in a much more simple but yet complex way. I don't know how to explain it, but
I understand what you're trying to get at.
And it's amazing. And that takes me to Thomas had a question in regards to skepticism. Thomas?
Oh, yes. We've been reading some of your lines, Steve. And although skepticism is a difficult word to pronounce, the thing is that people usually tend to follow certain paths due to maybe the way they were raised, the way they think is right, or other reasons. And the interesting thing about you, you found your way, your path, and that's something many people are looking. Even probably many people watching this are looking for their own path. Sometimes people don't find that they live their entire life without knowing.
Mhm.
So what would you tell someone that is maybe trying to find his or her process and doesn't know, needs maybe, what would you tell that person?
It's really a sense of just letting go any expectations or any, hey, tell me what to do, tell me what to do. You know, because I get that as a cartomancer a lot is, hey, what path do I take? Where do I go? What do I do? And I'm like, I can't tell you what to do. I can give you some advice on how to use that energy, or, you know, how to somewhat empower yourself, but I can't tell you which path to take. And which is interesting you bring that up, because even in me, when I was trying to find my path, I realized I was just slightly off. And all I needed was somebody to just kind of move the light over a little bit. You know, they never really told me, hey, take this path, take that path. It was like, they literally were like, all right, I'll help you. Nothing was said. It's just, again, it's so internal, and it's so feeling. It's really hard to describe. And if you're open to the universal messages and the synchronicities, you will start to see your own path guided out in front of you. It's really hard to describe, and it's so hard to tell somebody that, like, you know, we can't tell you exactly what you're meant for, because your soul and your spirit's going to drive you to that. But it really comes down to this release of, like, I mean, I know a lot of people like to skip the meditation aspect because they're like, oh, it's boring. I don't know how to quiet my mind, or I don't know how to do this or that. But really, that's a huge start, is really just that release and letting go, and just really listening to your inner self, because your higher self, your inner self, they all know what's good for you. And when you start to tap into your intuition and you're like, I knew that was a bad idea. I knew that was bad. Why did I do that? That's when you start to realize, okay, it was telling me something to begin with. When I was about to do something and it's like, this hesitation. Being a tattoo artist, I bring this up a lot. If somebody's asking me for a design or something that they want me to do or expect me to do, and my soul or spirit kind of does this, like, you're trusting me with something that's going to be on you forever. If I have this I don't know attitude, I'm not going to do it. I need to be all in and 100% confident to know that that was meant for me to do.
That is also part of what you mentioned, that, you know, we cannot tell other people what to do. Is not also an ethical side of
Mm-hmm.
our craft, but also it's called free will.
Totally.
We're not meant to tell other people what to do. We can just
Mm-hmm.
hold their hand and be there for them.
Totally.
In this very loving and compassionate and empathic way. But that's
lift
it.
them up. Yeah, totally. Lift them up, encourage them. And I think one of the best things I've learned too through this journey that I've been on is the best way you can encourage someone as well is basically just kind of give them advice through how you've lived through it or how you've seen it. And again, see, like with me, it's like, it's so hard to say, I can't tell you where your path is. It's not, you know, it's not, you're not gonna, it's really hard to describe. It's like, you have to really tap in back to where we were before starting this, finding that child energy. What makes you excited? What makes you driven? What makes you creative? Go with that, and your path will kind of naturally start to unfold in front of you.
Because everything is connected, right?
Everything's connected. That's why I love the rabbit holes and the spider webs, because you start going and it just keeps going and going, and you're like, oh yeah, this. It's insane how much it's all connected. I mean, spirituality and awakening, all these type of terms you'd like to say, it really is mind-blowing. It really is mind-blowing, but in a good way. It's fun. You know, it's so fun. It gives me this childlike energy when the universe is literally blowing my mind and you appreciate what you're seeing in front of you.
I want to go, because I want to tell the audience first that we're going to have a podcast with Steve, which is going to be lengthy, and we're going to be covering different aspects. But I want to ask you right now, what part has your natural talent as an artist and your training also as an artist, creativity, how has it influenced your mind in order to do the craft that you do right now with the cards?
Because even in art, it's discouraged where, you know, people are like, artists don't make money till they're dead. You know, like famous artists, you're not going to be a famous artist till, you know, it's a struggle. Even artists, you know, are like, you know, we don't live this lavish life. We get our payment through seeing joy with what we create. It's not so, I mean, I've heard that so much that it is a little discouraging, where it's like, you're not going to be a millionaire making art. I mean, unless you're, you know, that special. But it's like, really, I feel more rich in reactions and pure intention of, like, for instance, like I've given paintings away because I can't put a price on it. I can't. And it means more to me to see somebody's excitement from receiving that as it is. And then years later going to their house and it's literally still framed up on their wall. Like, that's, no money can buy that for me. So, I mean, money was a man-made system that I kind of don't believe in. So I think that love and intention of their pure excitement of receiving that gift and literally still, you know, letting it live on in their household as something that's inspirational. No money can buy that.
That's awesome. And do you think that as an artist, your mind works in a different way, your heart feels in a different way, and this might also help you look through the cards in a different way, be much more open-minded?
Exactly. I remember being a child and, you know, people would always take field trips to museums or, you know, that type of stuff. And I remember all the children, I mean, literally like 90% of them, they're just running around being children. And I remember literally sitting there looking at random pieces of art. Like, this is a piece of art that's in a museum. And, you know, to me, I'm like, I can just throw some colors together and I could do that, right? I could do that. Why is this in here? And why is this priced this, right? And so, you know, the kids who were interested would walk by and I'd say, hey, what do you see here? What do you see here? Another one. What do you see here? Every reaction was different, or every insight was different. And that fascinated me as a kid, which I later learned in psychology, because I studied psychology in college. There's something called the Rorschach test, the ink blot test, where, you know, they ask different subjects, what do you see here? And depending on where your mentality is or what you're going through, you're going to see different pictures. So again, that fascinated me from the get-go. And I see that in tarot as well, because you can literally ask different people, hey, what does this card mean to you? What does this card mean to you? And a lot of the time it's going to be different, depending on the question as well. The question or the situation, it's going to be different interpretations, which has always fascinated me. So I think a true artist just gives you a vision or insight that you would have never thought of. And it's amazing, because in trying to bring unity to the world, we have to respect that not everyone's going to see the same thing. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, because we have as many different views as many different people we are. And this is very interesting, because I feel that like the conversation is flowing so nicely that, okay, I'm not going to ask the questions in regard to tarot itself or shamanism or becoming a psychic, because I can say that I'm a bit trained in that, okay? But but actually Thomas was, you know, he was the one, because I want for people to to be creative. So it was actually Thomas, the one that came up with the question. So I want for Thomas to take that lead, because you don't know too much about what tarot and shamanism is. So go ahead, Thomas. Ask Steve.
Yeah, no, the thing. Thank you. The thing is, it's like a guide. When I was reading all your words, all your things, I was, of course, thinking about different things, and also I was like having new ideas or things I could talk to you about. So I decided, let's then write a few words, and it's like, what would you say about this or the other? So yeah, we see that people, like you said, they have their own perceptions of life, and sometimes people do judgments about what we do, like you said, what we think, or etc. And I see that maybe since very young you were having a certain teachings or things that you might feel you felt strange about it, and you knew something was not what you really wanted. So do you think one person has to find its own self journey and not follow established guides by groups, organizations, or commandments? We see all around the world people are following certain things, and they really not sure about them. They just follow. Maybe they go to certain celebrations or things, and maybe they don't really feel like it. So what would you say about that?
As human beings, they want love and acceptance. I mean, I've been there as well. Through my perspective, it's, you want to, bring your guard down or bring your walls down and keep trying. It's like in relationships, you're constantly learning. You're not going to treat, I mean, I would hope not. This is what I try to teach, is you don't, if you had a bad experience with one, you're not going to treat the next one like the last one did, because everybody's individualistic and everybody's different. So you obviously want to learn and take those experiences into the next, but you don't want to treat different people the same as others were treating you. In other words, if people are treating you bad, you're not going to start treating other people bad because you've been treated bad, if that makes sense. You want to keep your heart pure, despite the fact that you've been through certain instances. I think it just makes you stronger as you go. And I think, again, in human nature, you want to be accepted and loved. You want to be accepted, and even me being very individualistic and very self-driven, I still do try to reach out and find a community that I feel comfortable in. And I'll be honest, a lot more times than not, it's disappointing. And it keeps me self-driven, and knowing that, again, you want to keep the people in your corner that raise you up and congratulate you when you do good things, as opposed to the ones who are there who are like, oh, well, why do you do this? Why do you get to do that? What? Because I worked for it. Like, there shouldn't even be an argument about that. There should, the people who truly love you and want to see you rise will clap and give you a hug and like, dude, you're doing amazing. You're doing awesome. So I think just naturally you'll find who those people are around you. And again, you can't give up. You don't want to treat everybody the same, because nobody's going to see things the same way you do. Everybody's different. But you will get in touch with people who do share same interest, or again, the ones that want to see you succeed. Those are the people you want to keep around.
This sort of like leadership model that you're talking about, because that's what actually you're talking about, also brings me to the question of leadership and healing and helping others, and what part does shamanism play into that for you?
I was going to bring that up as well, because I had always had the word shamanism like in my mind, kind of connecting to like a Native American aspect. But now that I'm looking more into it, because I have been deep diving in it the last few months, and even the word shamanism seems like it's getting watered down or getting written about by people who know nothing about it. So I'm honestly getting drawn more into different interpretations of it, where you would just be considered a healer or a medicine man, I guess, if that makes sense. I think the word shaman, I was digging too deep into that, but I'm now finding out that it doesn't necessarily have to be that. Because in tribes as well, there was, you know, the healer or the medicine man. I know in, again, we were talking about like Mayans and Aztecs, or that old style Native America, it would be considered a curandero.
Curandero, sí.
Okay, yeah. So I think, again, through my research and through actual deep diving, I was attracted to the word shaman, and now I'm realizing there's different terms for it, or different aspects that I thought was that, but wasn't, if that makes sense. So I think I like sticking to that healer, that empath, healer, medicine man, somebody who the tribe goes to when they need that spiritual guidance.
Spiritual leader. I love that
Mhm.
concept. Guys, so I know I said we were not going to go into technicisms of what tarot and everything means, but I really want for Steve to be able to give the audience a sense of what it actually means, right? How can you get to that stage in which he is right now? And how do I, if I'm interested in learning, how can I do this? Okay. And for you to actually give us a right, I don't know if definition is the word, but concept of what tarot actually is, you know?
Okay. Well, to me, I feel like it was definitely natural. It's something that came natural. I've literally been playing with cards my whole life, not tarot cards, but tarot's been always in the back of my mind. Because being an artist, I mean, even looking at things like Led Zeppelin would use tarot imagery for their CDs or T-shirts, and it's always been there. It's always been there. But I had the belief or superstition that a tarot deck was supposed to be gifted to you. So I had always held off on that aspect. I mean, I've deep dived into other religions, other practices, because I feel in order to get, I've always felt like a judge, which later on in life, I found out I was a Libra rising. So that makes sense. You know, I need to have all aspects in order to make an educated or heartfelt decision. In other words, if I see two sides fighting, I don't just say, oh, I'm with you guys, right? I'm like, wait, I need to figure out what both of you are fighting for, because I need to try to understand it, right? And by the end of it, I don't choose any sides, because I'm like, okay, I can literally see from both your perspectives of why you feel it's right. But again, instead of fighting, you guys really need to get outside the box and see how you can work together, you know, instead of fighting together. So basically, to get back on track, I had always had playing cards. Always had playing cards. I even have a collection of Star Wars playing cards that I get every year. Every year at Christmas, I get Star Wars playing cards. Whether I use them or not, I always have cards around. I've been playing, it's a Dungeons and Dragons style game called Magic the Gathering, which actually gives a lot of insight on spirituality without you really knowing it. Again, if you deep dive into art and cards, you'll see the messages there. And my biggest thing that I like to tell people is if there's a message coming through, it's going to come through. I've gotten messages through the radio, through music I listen to, through commercials. You know, it's just, if spirit wants a message to be told, it's going to come through no matter what you're using. The cards make it a little bit easier. It's a tool. I know that that's brought up a lot. It's a tool. And there's a lot of people that'll say anybody can read tarot, and that's true. That's very true. Anybody can read tarot if you go by the skeletal and like original meaning structure, if you'd like to say. Like it's kind of hard to describe. Like for instance, let's just bring up Two of Pentacles. You'll hear balance constantly. Everyone's going to say balance, 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 right? But in the sense that I like to describe it, intuitively reading, you're going to get every meaning under the sun for that. And you'll find meanings that aren't in books. It's intuitively reading. The cards are going to tell you something different, specifically with what the question is, or the setting, or the element that you're trying to find this answer. Intuitively reading, you're going to see into the card. You have to put yourself in that card and kind of really figure out what's going on. It's interesting. My big imagination and love for fantasy and cartoons, I can literally deep dive into a card and put myself there, to where I'll give you meanings that aren't in any books. I explained to you one time, I described somebody's ex-boyfriend because they were like, oh, I'm getting these mixed messages, these energies, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting a guy with black hair, and she's like, oh, well, short or long? I'm like, short, and then I'm like, and his name starts with the A, and she's just like, what, how? And I'm like, I don't know how to explain how this happened. So again, anybody can read tarot in a book or structural sense, and that's what I like to, if I am kind of describing this, I'll describe you the structure sense, but there's no real way to teach intuitively. You have to really just trust yourself, trust the message that you're getting. And sometimes people are like, no, that doesn't sound right, and then you say it and they're like, whoa, no, you're totally on it. I always, if I ever question myself, I step back and I say, if I'm double thinking something, let's go with the first thing that popped in my head. And that's your intuition talking to you. I literally, and it just happens. It's the most beautiful thing and the most craziest thing at the same time, that it's really hard to describe. That it's really just a true release and trust in finding your intuition. It's releasing, not giving any bias to anything, just really letting the messages come through. Because like I said, there's even been times where I'm like, really, that doesn't sound right, and then I'll say it and they're like, dude, you're on it. And I can't really describe that. It's all trust. It's all trusting your inner voice.
You know that while you're talking, I'm thinking that this interview is kind of like a circle, because what you're talking about is basically becoming a child, which is something that we were talking at the beginning. So
yes.
you become a child, you don't judge, you play and you look and feel the images, right?
Yes.
And you connect with the other person, and then this crazy and undescribable energy flow just happens, and you start receiving the messages naturally. So I think that is also one of the aspects that people out there who are questioning themselves in regards to this, because maybe they are scared and they don't know what tarot is about, or they have the wrong idea. It is actually a healing tool. It's actually something that allows you to get to know yourself better, to become more self-aware, and with that very particular way of reaching to another person and connecting to the soul, which also empowers our own soul. So it's very beautiful, very beautiful.
It's very good to use for journal prompting too. I know I had always felt the need to journal, but never really known what to talk about. So somebody first getting into tarot, I guess a good way to study cards and a good way to deep dive into cards, or even use journal prompts, is to pull just one card a day and write about it. What do you see? What is it? What is the element of the what's the word I'm looking for? What vibe does this card give you, right? What is it? Because everybody's going to see things differently. I know some people who see the devil card as, oh, that's so cool. And then other people are like, no, that's nasty and suppressing. It really depends on your outlook and your views, your experiences. But again, that's what we need. I want to hear everybody's take on it, because then it just gives you a bigger respect and understanding about it. instead of, no, that's not what it means, you know, and then you're sitting there bickering, like, you know, no, we don't need that. I love the bigger aspects. And I love how, you know, you can have 5 people in a room and we'll all see something different in that card. That's amazing and beautiful to me. And I think people need to respect that. That is a good way to start healing the world as one, and to bring unity together is really to accept.
Well, that is also part of a message that we want to give here with this show, you know, because as I said before, we are all connected, and that's the most important thing, particularly in this time. We were talking earlier to another guest, and he's also an artist, and he came to the same conclusion, right, as you have come.
I love it. Yeah, I love
this very creative process allows people to connect with each other and to grow as individuals and collectively. So I think that that's amazing. And I want to tell the audience that under the description box, they're going to find your IG, and in our IG, they're going to find your QR and all of your information and everything. But
awesome.
That we're also going to have a podcast with you, which is going to be amazing.
Great.
So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I really,
likewise,
I love it. And that's it. Thank you. That's the only thing that I can say to you.
So thankful. It was really nice to meet you, and hope to see you very soon in the podcast. And thank you so much for joining us.
Definitely. I feel like I've been smiling the entire time, and it feels good. It's really, it's amazing. I love being able to joining on something like this. And yeah, it's been, I mean, nothing worth having comes easy. It has been tough, but I do feel just this lifting of spirit, and it's amazing. The connections I've made, the things I've experienced. I know it's leading to something amazing, and I'm just, I love it. Thank you for having me.
This is you know, about it. You are in the United States. We are in very South America. We speak Spanish. You speak English, and still this flow is happening. And that's the wonderful thing that we have here. We don't pretend to be perfect. We don't pretend, you know, whatever. It's just 3 people connecting throughout love and understanding and being happy. That's it.
Perfect.
So guys, thank you very much. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you, Steve.
And thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye. Thank you, guys.